Before we begin, let me ask you to drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. And if you're tired of seeing people like this walk all over their neighbors, hit that like button. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to my second channel for more of these drama-packed stories, links in the description. It was still early. The sun had just started peeking over the horizon when I stepped out onto my front porch, holding my coffee. I was ready to get to work on my flower garden, the one thing that I always looked forward to. You see, I've been living in this neighborhood for 3 years now. It's a quiet little spot, and I worked my butt off to buy this small house, a modest 2-bedroom with a little yard. But to me, it was a dream come true. My name's Darnell Foster, and every morning, I take pride in my yard, especially the flowers, marigolds, petunias, roses, you name it. They're a colorful sight as you walk up to my front door, and I'm proud of the work I put into keeping them alive. That morning, I was about to hook up the hose to water my flowers when I noticed someone watching me. I looked up, and sure enough, there she was, Mrs. Grace Williams, staring at me through the blinds of her window. She was in her late 50s, always well-groomed with her blonde hair styled in a sharp bob. And, let's just say, she made it clear from the moment I moved in that she saw herself as the queen of our little block. She'd given herself the title of neighborhood leader, even though there was no HOA in our area. But that didn't stop her. She'd printed up business cards calling herself the neighborhood standards coordinator, and the whole neighborhood just kind of went along with it. I heard through the grapevine that things weren't going too well for her financially after her divorce, but that wasn't my problem. As I started watering the flowers, I saw her front door swing open, and there she came, marching across the street in her faded pink bathrobe, her hair all messy. It was clear by the look in her eyes something was coming. "Excuse me, Darnell," she shouted, her voice sharp. I turned off the hose, standing up and giving her a polite but neutral nod. "Morning, Mrs. Williams. What can I do for you?" She stopped at the edge of my property, hands on her hips like she was about to give a sermon. "I need to talk to you about your water usage," she said, like she had some kind of authority. I blinked, thinking I'd misheard her. "Excuse me. Your water bill," she repeated, speaking slowly as if I were a child. "It's too high. You're using too much water, and it's affecting the neighborhood's overall efficiency ratings." I set my coffee cup down and crossed my arms. "With all due respect, Mrs. Williams, my water bill is my business. I pay it on time every month, and I don't see how it affects anyone else." Her face turned red as she narrowed her eyes at me. "That's where you're wrong. As the HOA president, I have the authority to regulate water usage, and frankly, I think you're being selfish." "Selfish?" I asked, genuinely confused. "How am I selfish? You're out here every morning watering your flowers like you're running a botanical garden, while some of us can't even afford our own bills," she snapped, her voice rising. "I haven't been able to pay my water bill in 2 months, and here you are wasting water on these decorative plants." I finally realized what was going on. This wasn't about water conservation or efficiency. This was about money and her lack of it. "I'm sorry to hear about your situation, Mrs. Williams," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "but I don't see how my paying my bills affects you." She wasn't having it. That's the problem with people these days. No one looks out for their neighbors anymore. "I've been struggling, and all you do is flaunt how well you're doing." She took a step closer to me, her voice dripping with contempt. "Where I come from, neighbors help neighbors." The racial undertone in her words wasn't lost on me, but I kept my cool. "Mrs. Williams, I help my neighbors when I can, but paying someone else's bills isn't something I can afford to do." "Can't afford?" She laughed bitterly. "Please. I see the car you drive. I see the packages getting delivered to your house. You're doing just fine, Darnell. You're just selfish." That did it. My jaw tightened. I work hard for everything I have, just like everyone else should. Her eyes narrowed again, and she delivered her next words with an air of authority. "You should recognize that as a property owner in this HOA-regulated neighborhood, you have responsibilities. And right now, your responsibility is to help your neighbors in need." I shook my head. "Ma'am, there is no HOA here. And even if there was, it wouldn't give you the right to tell me how to spend my money." Her eyes burned with a dangerous intensity. "Oh, there's an HOA. I'm the HOA, and I'm telling you that if you don't start acting like a decent neighbor, there are going to be consequences." "Are you threatening me?" I asked, my voice dropping low. I'm educating you, she said smugly. About your CIVYC duties. About your place in this community. Her last words hit a nerve, but I didn't let it show. This conversation is over, Mrs. Williams, I said, picking up my hose again. I suggest you go back to your house and figure out your own financial situation without involving me. She stormed back across the street, but I could hear her yelling, "This isn't over." Not by a long shot. I opened it, and there she was, standing with a manila folder in her hands, a smug look on her face. "Good morning, Darnell," she said sweetly. "I have some important documents for you to review. I eyed the folder suspiciously. "What kind of documents?" "HOA bylaws and regulations," she announced proudly. "I've been working with the city to get our neighborhood officially recognized as an HOA, and I wanted to make sure you understood the new rules." I took the folder, flipping through the pages. They looked official enough, fancy letterheads, legal-sounding language, but something felt off. "Where did you get these?" "I drafted them myself," she said, practically glowing with pride. "I used to work as a paralegal. I know how to make proper legal documents." I skimmed through the pages and sure enough, I found what I was expecting, ridiculous rules about everything from lawn ornaments to the number of flowers per square foot. But most telling of all, there was a section on community water sharing responsibilities. "This says that residents are required to contribute to a community water fund," I said, looking up at her. "Who decides who gets help from this fund?" "The HOA president, of course," she replied with a beaming smile. "That would be me." I handed her the folder. "Mrs. Williams, you can't just create an HOA and impose rules on people. It doesn't work like that." Her smile faltered. "Actually, it does," she said defensively. "I've already filed the necessary paperwork with the city." "Filed what paperwork?" I demanded. "You can't just declare yourself the head of an HOA without the consent of the homeowners." "I have consent," she said, her voice now defensive. "Mrs. Patterson from 2 houses down signed on." I raised an eyebrow. "Mrs. Patterson is 83 years old and has dementia. That signature wouldn't hold up anywhere." Her face began to turn red again. "You're being very difficult about this, Darnell," she snapped. "I'm not joining your fake HOA," I said firmly. "And I'm not paying your water bill. If you continue harassing me about this, I'll call the police." "The police?" she laughed. "Go ahead, call them. I'll tell them about your illegal water usage and your failure to comply with community regulations." "What illegal water usage?" I asked, incredulous. "There's no drought sorry in effect, and watering plants isn't illegal." "We'll see about that," she said smugly. "I've been documenting everything. Times, dates, photos, everything." "You've been taking pictures of me in my own yard?" I asked, my voice hardening. "Documenting violations of community standards," she corrected. "It's all perfectly legal when you're acting in an official capacity." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mrs. Williams, you're not acting in any official capacity. You're harassing me. And if you don't stop, I will call the police." "Fine," she said, her voice sweet but dripping with malice. "But don't say I didn't try to handle this the nice way." As she walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Something told me it was just the beginning. A week later, I came home to find my water pressure was shot. The water was barely trickling out of my faucets. I went outside to check the meter and saw that my water line had been deliberately damaged. The pipe was broken and water was seeping into the ground, turning my yard into a muddy mess. I immediately called the police, then the plumber, then my insurance. As I was waiting, I saw Mrs. Williams peeking through her window. When she saw me looking, she quickly shut the blinds. A few minutes later, Officer Jake showed up. He took one look at the damaged pipe and shook his head. "Looks like vandalism," he said. "Do you have any idea who might have done this?" I had a pretty strong suspicion. "Mrs. Williams," I said, pointing across the street. "She's the one I've been having issues with." He walked across to her house. I could see her having her arms around, clearly agitated. After about 10 minutes, he came back, looking frustrated. "She denies everything," he said. "Says she was at work all day." I called the craft store. They said she hasn't been in for days. "Liar," I muttered under my breath. The plumber confirmed what we already knew: the pipe was broken intentionally. It was going to cost me $800 to fix, and I wouldn't have water for at least a day. I felt like I was losing everything. I was about to call Jerome, my buddy who worked as a paralegal downtown, for legal ad VYC when I saw something that made me smile. There was a water department truck parked in front of her house. She'd been stealing water.